Hi everyone, we are the NeuroKidz, where education meets empowerment one brain at a time. Thank you so much for coming this week. So this is our third session, so I'm glad y'all could make it. And so what do all of you remember? Some of you weren't here for the last meetings, but some of you were. So for those of you who were there last meeting and last meeting, what do you remember from those? Does anyone want to come off mute? I know it's been some time. So I'll just, since we have a lot of things to cover today, I'm gonna do a quick recap for you guys. It's been a break and then like a week after that. So before we talked about neurons, we're going to go more into depth later. We also talked about the skull, basically your the bone that is protecting your brain. And then we learned about the meninges, which is another layer of the brain. And we learned about cerebrospinal fluid. It's basically like water that your brain is floating in. And that way, if you hit your head, your brain won't get injured. And we learned about protecting our brain. So what is a way that you can protect your brain when riding on a bike? Does someone want to come off mute?
Wearing a helmet?
Yes, wearing a helmet. That is a great way to protect your brain. It's kind of like a second skull. Isn't that cool? You have a helmet that's your outside skull, and then you have a bone that's kind of like another helmet that's a skull, and then you have other layers around your brain that protects it. So let me know if you do not understand something, because that's what I'm here for, to explain different concepts to you. All right? So great job. Today we're going to learn about neuroplasticity. That's a pretty long word. If you guys want to say neuroplasticity, you can come off mute and say that, or you can just say it while being muted. It's neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity, it sounds a lot like neuroscience. They have that same beginning, neuro. So this neuro part is related to our brain. So it's all our brain, the cells that make up our brain, those are called neurons. So neuro is the brain. Now let's think about plastic. Do you think that plastic is something that can be easily bended, easily shaped? Give me a thumbs up if you can. If you think that plastic can be easily bent. You can do it like Play-Doh. Like Play-Doh is easily flexible, right? Yeah, it's a thumbs up. So when they say plasticity, it means that that something can be easily changed. It can be molded into anything that you want. Like Play-Doh, you can mold it into, let's say, an elephant or into a heart. You can do all sorts of things with plastic. Now, when you put neuro, which is your brain, and plasticity together, that gives a new meaning, which means that your brain is like plastic. It's like Play-Doh. You can basically shape it any way that you like. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So neuroplasticity, it's the ability for the brain to, it's the ability for the brain to continuously change throughout your life. So it's like plastic. It can be molded into different shapes, and it's all based on what you do and how you practice and how you use your brain to make it in a certain way. So for example, all of us were born without knowing a lot of things, right? How many of you were born with knowing what 10 times 10 was? I shouldn't be seeing any hands up, right? Because all of us, we learn multiplication, we learn addition. We're not born that way. But through learning and through practicing, like your teacher might give you these multiplication sheets where it's like 1 times 1 and then 2 times 3. You have to do all those problems multiple times in order for you to remember what 2 times 3 is, or what 10 times 10 is. And that way you'll be able to grow smarter. But if you didn't practice, then you wouldn't really remember, you wouldn't know, right? And so that's why it's really important, in order to shape your brain, in order to mold the Play-Doh into the way that you want it to be, rather than not take care of it and then not mold it into something really beautiful. All right. So do some of you remember the brain wrinkles? We talked about brain wrinkles on our first meeting. So our brain has these really weird wrinkles. It has a lot of wrinkles. So each of these wrinkles, it kind of allows for more space for your brain to do things. And that makes you smarter. But we aren't born with a set amount of brain wrinkles and just having that same number stay that way. If we practice, if we really use our skills, then we're able to make more brain wrinkles and make yourself smarter. So that's something really cool. Apparently, Albert Einstein, who we all know is very, very smart, he had a lot of brain wrinkles when he was older and when they saw his brain, of course. But before, when he was young, he was not that smart. But through using his brain and through learning, he was able to really form those brain wrinkles and become smart as we know him to be. All right, so we're going to watch a video here that talks about neuroplasticity. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less.
So she's talking about these different pathways in our brain being used more and more. This is basically how habits are formed. Do you remember the first time that you rode a bike? So it took practice to be able to ride a bike. When you were born, you weren't able to ride a bike just like that. But through using a certain pattern in your brain, and using that again and again and again, which is what practice is. That certain pathway, it becomes stronger and it becomes easier for you to ride the bike. So same thing with multiplication, same thing with basically anything.
And less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action.
So did you hear that? She basically was saying that there is an old pathway. So let's say that this was the habit of waking up and then sitting down in your couch and watching TV. How many of you do that right now? Do you think that's a good habit or a bad habit? Yeah, it's bad, right? Just getting up and then sitting down and watching TV. We should, be getting ready for the day. So that's a bad habit, but that pathway is already there in your brain. Well, you know what's really cool? We can get rid of that pathway, that habit, by practicing a different habit. So, for example, all of a sudden you decide that I am going to brush my teeth after getting up. So you go and you brush your teeth right after you get up for many, many, many days. So through doing that, you are training yourself to get up and then brush your teeth rather than get up and sit on the couch and watch TV. So that habit of sitting on the couch and watching TV, that slowly goes away. And this other habit of getting up and brushing your teeth, that becomes a lot stronger because the pathways are getting stronger. And that is neuroplasticity in action.
The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain.
So do you see what these two images are? So the top one here is basically when something goes wrong, you start panicking. You're really stressed. How many of you have started panicking because something didn't go your way, or you were really scared about something? Raise your hand if you have. Yeah? Well, instead of being really scared about something or being stressed or getting angry at your sibling because they did something, you can make another habit of this bottom image, which is meditation or breathing. That calms you down a little bit. And that is a habit that people can form through practice. And anyone can do it. So that's basically what she's showing right over here.
Experience neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So that is our first video. And that moves us on to growth mindset. So growth mindset is interesting. So growth mindset is when we think that we can become smarter through hard work and practice, or when you think that you can become better through perseverance, through doing hard work and through practicing. So something that is really important and that you should be taking away from today is that we are not born smart. We have to work for it. But all of you can be smart. But you have to do it through practice and through hard work. So how about all of us come off of mute and say, I can. All right? Everyone come off mute.
I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
Yes, I can. Now all of you can mute. So saying I can is really important because that tells yourself that you are able to improve, that you are able to practice and you're able to become smart, right? How many of you want to be smart and be successful in life? How many of you? Raise your hand if you do. Yeah? Raise your hand if you want to be smart and successful. Yes, most of us, if not all of us, want to, right? But that's not going to be easy unless you think that you can do it and you do hard work and practice. Just thinking that you can, having this growth mindset is half of the battle. All right, so we are going to talk about growth mindset and fixed mindset. So I'm just going to let you know that fixed mindset is basically when you think that you can't do it, you cannot improve. But actually you can, as we learned from neuroplasticity, we can improve. So this video talks about both of these mindsets.
There are two types of mindset we can cultivate. One that embraces problems as opportunities to learn, and one that avoids them, often out of fear to fail. People that avoid conflicts can be described as having a fixed mindset. Those who see problems as interesting challenges have a growth mindset. Sometimes we like to switch from one to the other. People have a fixed mindset because they believe that basic qualities like intelligence or talents are fixed traits and that these traits are responsible for success. They often like to document past achievements. With a growth mindset, people believe that new abilities can be developed through practice. This view creates the love for learning that most great leaders and artists have in common. For them, life becomes an exciting journey with endless opportunity to figure out new things and advance.
So who do we see over here? We have people like Albert Einstein. We just talked about him, right? He had a growth mindset, and that way he became smarter. Look, all these astronauts and all these inventors, they had a growth mindset. They wanted to improve on themselves, and they told themselves that they could. Whereas that fixed mindset before, they just like to look at their past and they don't really think about their future and what they're going to do to improve.
To develop a growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck, the Stanford University professor who coined the term, advises leaders, teachers, and parents to celebrate trying. Teachers should applaud students for any grade if they studied hard. Parents should encourage their children to develop any new skill they are interested in. Doing this will make them learn the skill of learning, which will also help them back in the classroom.
So something really important that he just said was that you should learn for the love of learning, not just for your grades. So basically, when you learn for the love of learning, which means that you're just going to learn because you really love that subject. Like, for example, if you really love science, you're just going to learn it just because you love science and not because you need that A or any good grade. Usually when you love something and you do it because you want to and not because of grades, the grades will just come automatically. So that's something for you guys to know and something important to take away.
To illustrate the difference in everyday life, let's observe two imaginary kids. Jay thinks you've either got it or you haven't. Anne knows that she can learn anything if she wants it enough. At physical exercise, Jay avoids challenges. When it's time to jump over the vaulting horse, he's afraid to look stupid and be laughed at. Anne embraces any challenge. It's exciting, it's fun. She knows that failing is part of learning, and if she tries hard, at the end, nobody will laugh at her. Jay avoids feedback. If the teacher tells him how to improve an assignment he has been working on, he takes it personally. Anne knows that to improve, she needs to listen to constructive criticism. She also understands that it's not her that is being assessed, but the results of her work on that one day.
Right? So make sure to take any sort of suggestions that your teacher gives and make sure to implement it rather than feel bad about it.
Jay always takes the easy road. For example, he likes escalators and hates to take the stairs. When he is practicing the guitar, he stops the moment he's getting stuck. Anne usually doesn't even take escalators. She jumps up the stairs, counts every step in her head, and enjoys feeling the blood rushing through her veins. She practices the drums every morning for 15 minutes. Not that she always enjoys it, but she knows that effort is part of a journey to a more fun life.
Exactly. So even if a certain way might be easy, it might not be the best way. So you should always look for challenges and to really push yourself if you want to be better.
Anne likes to see others succeed. It inspires her. She knows that if she motivates her friends to get better, she herself is likely to grow too. If his friends try new things and succeed, Jay feels threatened. He's afraid that their success will put pressure on him to do more with his life too. Modern companies look for employees with a growth mindset because they solve problems and persist despite obstacles. To spot the right ones, some ask during the interview whether the job applicant believes if managers are born or if management is a skill learned. Jay thinks that managers are born. Anne gets the job. Neuroscientists support the idea. They confirm that the brain grows like any other muscle in the body, with training. Studies show that adopted twins tend to have higher intelligence compared to their siblings who stayed with their biological parents. The difference appears to come from the higher educational levels of adoptive parents and shows that nurture is more important than nature.
Yeah, so there's a saying, nature versus nurture. So nurture is how your parents raise you, how your teachers teach you, whereas nature is just the way that you're born. So certain things like a growth or fixed mindset are based on how people around you teach you. So, for example, if you weren't taught about growth mindset, you might not have a growth mindset. You might have a fixed mindset, meaning that you're just going to take the easy way and you're not going to push yourself. Although some people, they just figure out a way to have a growth mindset. So it totally depends, meaning that it's usually nurture, the way that you are raised, the way that you're taught.
A simple switch in how a person views a situation can mean the world of difference. Not just the outcome of that situation, the outcome of that person's place in life. As the late poet Samuel Beckett once said, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again."
So if something doesn't go your way, like for example, if you're trying to ride a bike, but you fall off, that doesn't matter. You just get up, you dust yourself off, and you just try again. And that's a growth mindset, and that's the way that you want to go in order to use your neuroplasticity and create different habits.
Fail better. What do you think about the concept? Is it overly simplistic? And if you buy the idea, do you believe it is possible to make a permanent switch from a fixed to a growth mindset? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below.
Right. So, what kind of mindset are you going to have? Does anyone want to volunteer? Are you going to have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Yeah, Shay? I can't hear you. Oop, I still can't hear you. I don't know. If you want to type it in the chat, that would be great. Anyone else wants to volunteer? I'm going to start calling on people then. All right. Bella, what do you think?
I think a growth mindset.
Yes, a growth mindset. All right. I'm going to call on Jared. Are you going to have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset?
I'll pick growth.
Yeah, growth. Why do you want to pick growth?
Because so you won't get so you won't take the so
Are you going to take the easy way or the more challenging way?
you can take the more challenging way than the easy way.
Yeah. So what is that going to do? Are you going to be able to get more practice or less practice?
More practice.
Yes. And are you going to, when you fail, are you going to try again, or are you going to give up?
So every time when I play a video game and I lose in Rocket League, I try again.
Yes, great example. So a lot of you are saying growth mindset, and that is exactly where we want to be. So remember to implement that in real life, though. So that is all that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining.